Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all good. Now, today I've got a very exciting guest today. We're going to be chatting a bit about United. Obviously, for me, chatting about Arsenal, I'm not very excited to do that because we're not doing too good, but it's going to be good fun. But yeah, I've got a very special guest. Hold on a sec. Give me
I guess I've taken the big up for having me. Just here for the time being until she gets her laptop reconnected. I guess I'll take the time to shout my channel as well. Premier League Prime Time, go have a look as well.
Hey guys, sorry about my computer's quite funny sometimes, it does, but thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today? How's your day been so far?
It's been all right. Bit of a slow start, but that's life sometimes. Have a bit of a slow start at times. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's been good, thank you, and I'm just really looking forward to chatting with you today. We will be chatting a bit about both clubs, United and Arsenal, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you guys might have about both clubs. But I wanted to start off with United because obviously, as someone outside, it seems as though things are starting to go in your favour. It seems like things are looking more positive. Like, how are you feeling? I mean, with the Ten Hag situation, did the club leave it too late? Was it the right time? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
For those who know me, I know there probably most of you lot probably don't, but for me, when Erik ten Hag first joined, I was excited as anyone was. I thought he was going to bring this Ajax football that we had seen at Ajax, him play at Ajax, who got them to the semifinals of the Champions League, and everyone was excited, especially after the first season. And then that summer, he had made some very questionable signings, which made me raise an eyebrow or two. Like Carlo Ancelotti, raising an eyebrow or two, and I'm thinking to myself, very odd. We need a striker. We signed Mason Mount for £60 million
Yeah.
when he was on. He had a year left of his deal. Chelsea didn't even want him, and we prioritized him over Harry Kane, and we signed Rasmus Højlund for 72 million. Coincidentally, that they're in the same, him and Ten Hag have the same agency, and then we all saw how last season went. And when I heard after the Manchester City game, when I heard him say he dropped Varane for tactical reasons, I thought this manager is completely out his depth, and I can't back or support this. And in the summer, I was surprised how he still stayed, but I thought to myself, there's no way that Ineos are going to keep him around. Openly talking to Thomas Tuchel as well, so
Yeah.
it was a bit surprising for me how he stayed, but Ineos had a plan, and their plan all along was Ruben Amorim. Bringing in Ugarte as well, I thought was a bit questionable for the amount of money, but I think now we're going to see the best of him. But I'm just really excited, especially after the first training video that was released, just seeing the basics of him, implementing to the players that were there, the way he likes to play with the back five or the back three. So no, I'm very excited to at least in the near future. Hopefully he can be successful.
Yeah, because I know it's quite tough because I know when Ten Hag came, a lot of fans at United were quite happy to have him, and I thought myself, he's a good manager and he'll do really well at United. But I think it's always quite hard to predict how managers are going to do, because I think at United, I think it's going to be a big job whoever comes in and does it. I mean, for you, before we speak on your new manager, do you feel like you could still get top four? Because I know the season has been on, we're pretty much at the start of the season, really, and there's still a lot of time for you guys to make amends. I know you're in the 13th place, but if you get a few good wins, that could really help your club.
I think that the last time that I checked, I think it's only a 4-point difference right now.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Yeah, and we're so early in the season that anything could happen. In my honest prediction, do I think that we'll get it? I don't think so. Just seeing the other clubs that are in and around that and the competition for that, but anything can happen in football. I mean, we've seen very strange things happen. So, top four, I wouldn't say it's completely impossible. I'd say more improbable than impossible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you never know. I mean, with players, for example, Marcus Rashford, hugely divisive in the fan base. But we all see and we all know what he can do when he goes on a hot streak, what we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah.
If it weren't for him, we probably wouldn't have been in the top four in the first place. So we know anything can happen in football. The way Chelsea have looked this season, who would have thought? So who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it could be possible.
I think, like you said, I mean, at the moment it's quite open, for that top four space, and they're supposed to depending with how the manager can do as well. It's going to be very exciting, to see who can get the top four, because I think it could, it's a great opportunity that it could be, Spurs, but I think there's a few teams in the mix like Villa as well, so it's so competitive. But I think it's quite exciting to see. I just wanted to say a big up to a few of you who are watching this. Big up Dominic, good to see you. On next game is Forest. Yeah, I'm so nervous thinking about it. Like, it's really interesting with the international break. I've enjoyed having time off. It sounds bad, but I love Arsenal. But it's just we've been stressful to watch.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's been
under Ten Hag. I would genuinely look forward to watching England play, even if it meant even if it was Southgate at the time. I'm just like, you know what, Southgate, well, at least it's better than Ten Hag. I have to be honest. So no, I completely understand. I completely understand that side of it as well.
Yeah, it just feels nice to have a bit of a break, and like when your club's not doing well, I think for the players as well, it's good for them to have a break, or whether that's England or resting at the training ground. So I think it's obviously nice, but we have Forest, which is going to be a very, very tough game. And I wanted to speak a bit about your new manager, because obviously it's going to be an exciting time for you guys to have him. I mean, when we sort of heard the rumours about him, being appointed, and it all happened really fast, really. I think perhaps the club had him in mind, because I think with Ten Hag, I think we sort of knew he was going to get sacked at any point. I mean, I was surprised he didn't go earlier, but it was very quick how it happened, I felt. But do you think he's the right guy, for your future? Like, what are your thoughts on him being a manager?
I think Ineos have obviously looked at the style of football that they want to play, and I think it's very clear. And even when you just look at the FA Cup final, instead of starting Rasmus Højlund up front, we played with two dual false nines in McTominay and Bruno. So I think it's very clear that they want to play, on the front foot. They don't want this 3-1-6, whatever that was that Ten Hag was playing, where Ten Hag wanted us to be a pressing side, but also be a low block side and just leave nothing in the middle. So that 3-1-6 was hurting us every single game. Thus, was the reason why we would, in the losses in the games against Liverpool, against Tottenham at home, why they looked so bad and why some of our midfielders were looking so poor. Was because every single time in the system, regardless of who it was, whether it was Casemiro, whether it was Kobbie Mainoo, whether it was, Sofiane Amrabat, who I didn't necessarily rate all that highly, Eriksen, Sabitzer, you put anyone in that lone six position, they're going to struggle. And for me, I think it was the Tottenham game, Ugarte's first start, and Ugarte struggled. And when a brand new player who was just bought for that position is struggling, I think that just is everything you need to know about the system that's going on around him. So I think for me, the Ineos have looked at it and they thought to themselves, we want a manager who's going to play on the front foot, who's going to control games, who can
Yeah.
dictate games, but also is sort of in a way young enough that they can also be relatable to the players in this new up and coming sort of managerial breed. And I think Amorim really fits that profile. So now he's been saying the right things. So far, he's seen the right things. Now it's go on the pitch and implement it. Now actually go and do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big task for him because, like you said, I think you have sort of players that, probably need to move on, and you've got, a squad that could improve definitely. But, like, how long do you think it will take him to sort of get you to where you want to be? Because I think it's always hard to give managers time, and it's sometimes hard to figure out if they're the right fit. Because I know with Arteta, we're still obviously trying to win things, so we're still not sure if it can happen. But I think managers sometimes do need time. But like, how long do you think he should have until fans are happy? Because I know at the moment fans are happy. It's an exciting time to have a new manager. But like you said, you want to see improvements on the pitch, off the pitch, and see more better performances from some of these players.
I think for me, I look at the rest of the season, and I think when you look at what we have, what we can still compete for. We're still in all competitions right now. My goal as of right now, looking at how bad it's been, I'd probably even top four is not totally out of the clue, but I want a trophy. Go win the Europa League or go in the FA Cup, go win one of those, get Champions League football, and consider the season somewhat salvaged. And into the next season, into your second season, what I would expect is to see more of your style implemented. In the summer, he'll probably get more of his players that he wants. And looking at the signings that we brought in with the likes of De Ligt and Mazraoui and Zirkzee and Ugarte. Every single one of these signings to certain extent have been good signings for their own individual reasons, not signings that the manager directly wanted. These are all club signings, and I think that's a very good. I rate it. I really, really rate it. And for me, starting in the second season, I want to see your principles implemented. And the reason why I guess a lot of us started to turn on Ten Hag very quickly was especially that summer. Because when you look at that summer and you look at the amount of money spent, especially for this manager, over 700 million spent. Antony, I think the less said the better. Mason Mount, so far, the less said the better. They haven't lived up to expectations. So I think for me, that's what I want to see. I want to see principles. I want to see style of play. I want to see identity. That's for me is the main thing I want to see.
I think the identity ones are massive because I think it's important to sort of see these players perform much better because I think they can. I know in the cup final against Man City, if you could play like that more often, then I think you could definitely have a good season. But I think, like you said, winning trophies are so important, and I think as well if you could, even if you came fifth, obviously you want to be in the top four, but I think you've just got to see how it goes really with the new manager. It's going to be tough, but I think it would be like a big boost for the club and for the team if you won a trophy. Because I know you have been winning trophies as well. I know the Europa League I think that would be massive for the club. I think that would really maybe be like a little turning point to show that if you could win that, then it's going to help you get more success. But I think he's going to be a good appointment. And with like the players that you have, I know you mentioned a few, and I think for me, like the Mason Mount one was a bit kind of, it hasn't worked out, and he's just not really the player he used to be. And I know there's a few other players there. I know Rashford's an interesting one because I think a lot of United fans have different, opinions because I know he loves the club. But how many players do you feel like you need to move on? Because I think you've got some really good players, but I also think some have been there for a while and it's just not really working out. Like you said before, they've just not really gone through the expectations we thought they would have. Like sometimes it does happen in football.
In regards to moving on players, there are two ways I can look at it, and I'll kind of toss the question back to you. Are we saying realistically how many should we move on, or are we saying if we're living in fantasy world or in Football Manager, how many are moving on? Because if we're living in Football Manager, I'd say I'd time travel all the way back to last summer and I would fix the situation with Jadon Sancho, because that for me is one of the biggest things that I was not with Ten Hag for at all. The way on the whole Sancho situation, I know a lot of the fan base were all for it, and they said he doesn't work hard enough, but he has a history of disciplinary issues and all that. But you look at what the CEO of Dortmund, Ralf Rangnick, came out and said. Michael Carrick as well, Benny McCarthy, who was at the club whilst Ten Hag was here. So I never really got the sort of anti Jadon Sancho agenda. The way he was treated was, for me, absolutely shocking. And the way how he brought in Mount and gave him the 7, which we all knew for time that Jadon Sancho wanted. Mount given the 7 and 250 grand a week, for me straight away, I just, something for me just felt really, really wrong with that. So that's one that I would undo. But if we're thinking realistically, there are some players which their contracts will run down. Lindelof, I think, will go. If we're thinking of examples, Johnny Evans might retire. We have Maguire, thinks contract will be up, will be done. Ericsson, I think, will be out. But players that could be moved on. Anthony's wages, Cass as well. I do love. I'm a big fan of Casemiro, but the wages are just still a bit much, in my opinion. Even though he's one of our best players right now, which his quality is unquestionable. But there's still a great amount of overhauling that needs to be done with these players. But I believe that this manager can still get more out of these players than the previous manager did.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a good manager, to be able to do that, because I think there's players in the team, like an example, Bruno Fernandes. I think he's a very good player. Like, I know when he first came here into the Premier League, I thought he was very good, and I think he's still good. I think his levels have dropped, and I think if he played under a new manager, I think he would hopefully get the best out of him. And I think that's what you really want to see for your team. Be like Arteta. Like, I know also having problems at the moment, but you have seen that him being able to improve players, and I think that's what a good manager does. So I think for United, I think for the moment, I think you have to give the manager different windows to sort of bring their own players in, because I know Arteta, it took him a while, and I think it's going to be interesting, sort of the players he brings in and how he goes about it. But I think this season, like you said, for you guys, I think winning a trophy would be like the best thing. And hopefully, if you guys get a good position in the league, because I think the league's important for you guys, because I know last season you finished a lot lower than you probably should have. But I know these things do happen. So do you feel like it's important that you kind of finish quite strong in the season, try and finish relatively high in the league?
You know what they say? They all say the league is the bread and butter of everything. It's the most important place to perform and to show that you can perform. And again, not to keep going back to Ten Hag, we finished in our worst ever league position. I think we finished with a 0 goal difference, finishing 8th, but we constantly get reminded that he's won 2 trophies in 2 years. One of his main lines, which again, the less said, the better. Which it doesn't really matter, because we got into the top 4 out of technicality in his first season, because Liverpool, Tottenham weren't great. Arsenal and Man City were running away with it at the top, so we were kind of just the best of a bad bunch. Masked over a lot of the issues that were shown last season and for a lot of this season as well. So I think the league's very, very important. I think to finish in a respectable place is obviously aim. If we can finish in the top 4 and win a Europa League, consider that a great season.
Yeah, that would be a really good season, I think.
Consider that a good season for where this manager is starting, for where he has to pick up from. And if we're able to finish in the top 4, get a trophy or 2 on the way, brilliant.
Yeah, I think the Europa League, like I said, that would be massive. I think for the club, that would be such an amazing thing. And I think as well, just trying to finish as high as you can, within the top 6, or that would be where you want to be. So it's going to be really interesting season, because like we said, it's so competitive there. I mean, for the title race for Arsenal, it's competitive, but I think for the top 4, it's even more competitive. And big up Dominic. I think the break was what Arsenal needed, but I'm generally very optimistic for the remainder of the season. On United, I think the fans need to give the new manager time. Yeah, I think it's hard to tell really, because I think I completely agree with that. I think he does need, windows to bring
He
his
does
own
need
players in.
time,
Yeah.
but he also needs to earn it as well. He needs to earn time as
Yeah.
well.
He's got to do some right
You
things
know,
as well. Yeah.
yeah. He'll get a
Because
certain amount of window from the fan base, but then after a certain point, time's not just going to be automatically given to you.
yeah.
If time was, if all the time in the world was automatically given to anyone for anything, I mean, we'd all be in dreamland. We'd have no sense of urgency or
Yeah.
pressure whatsoever. So he needs to hit the ground running straight away. That'd be the best possible thing for him to show that he's here to and he's here to make a statement. And I think we play a lot in only a couple weeks or something like that.
I think we play each other quite soon actually, which is. But I mean, if Arsenal can get a few wins, and I think if we go on a good run, then going to the game, I'd probably feel more confident. But I think it's really weird at the moment. Like, I think if we have our first team, all there, it's a good chance we can win. But I don't know really. Like at the moment, it's hard to be positive because, like Chelsea, I'll be honest, that I thought Arsenal played okay against Chelsea. Like it was a much better performance, but it's just a problem of not being able to take our chances that I think will be a big problem for us. So yeah, it's just that game is gonna be. I always love playing United. It's always like a big fixture. I think for the fans, it's always like massive, like because of the rivalry, obviously, and all of the history. It's always a big game. So yeah, I do love playing against United.
With the way that that season's currently going, especially for Arsenal, do you look back at the summer window and do you kind of question the business that was done? I guess you could say. Just to throw a question at you, just
yeah,
offer or not, because goals are kind of an issue right now.
yeah. So you know what, it's like so frustrating because I'm not a football genius, but I think as fans we have common sense and we see things that they must be seeing. So it's hard to understand why they haven't been able to bring someone in. Like I'm not expecting them to just get Tony or Isaac, because I know it's probably quite difficult because Isaac's happy at Newcastle and they'll want to keep him. But I think the least we could have done is bringing in someone that's going to make a difference, really, even if that's a winger or someone in the midfield, just someone that can get us those goals. Because like I know we've got Sterling, but he's not really had the game time and he's only like only plays in the cup games. And I think it's fair right now to look back at the summer, because like I do love Calafiori, he's been amazing, but I don't know why we haven't brought a striker, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think if we're going to look back on that, we're going to probably say that about the summer, because we could have done a lot better. And yeah, I think it was underwhelming really, because last season, like I was disappointed, but I really could see something happening this season. And this season has just like gone really bad. I mean, I don't want to just blame it on injuries, because I know there's other things you can say, but I do think if we have a first team, things would be a bit different. But I also think Arteta maybe is struggling for ideas, because obviously Odegaard's a big factor in our team. I'm not going to say he'll win us games if he plays, but we can make that difference. And I think we're struggling with ideas really when he's not there or when Saka's not there, because we do rely on them an awful lot. And I think that's a big problem we've got right now.
And thinking about with the current injury crisis, I mean, Arteta decided to get rid of Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira, regardless of what people want to say. Smith Rowe is a very good footballer, and the way he's playing at Fulham, he's showing his quality. And I rate Smith Rowe Smith Rowe very, very highly. I think he's a very good footballer. And, he could have easily been a player that you could play in the Odegaard position, that you could play him on the left-hand side, where there are both been deficiencies and up front. And I think the Tony deal was fairly, I mean, he went to Saudi for, I think, around £40 million.
Yeah.
I think that deal could have been probably relatively easy to do. I mean, I don't know how much you spent on Calafiori. How much? Like 40, 50?
Yeah, I think Calafiori, I don't think he was that expensive. Like nowadays, like I think I think he was pretty. I'm actually let me have a look. I think he was around like 30, 40 maybe. Because I don't. I remember thinking, yeah, that's not bad, considering. But
I don't think
uh,
Tony would have been that much more expensive, maybe a little more or a bit less.
yeah, it was
And
42 million. That's not too bad, really. But it's hard because you might think to yourself, why can't we spend that money on the striker? But like Calafiori, you know what? I think he was the right signing. Like, I mean, there's also Marino as well. It's an interesting one because, like, I don't know how I feel about him right yet. Like, obviously, I'll support him, but I've not. I don't feel like I've seen enough of him to have a strong opinion on him. Like, I've seen glimpses and then I've seen not great performances. So it's a tough one, really. But I just it's hard to understand why we've not brought a striker in. Like, I mean, I just think we need that difference maker, and it's so obvious to see as an outsider. Probably, I mean, I say all the time how much we need a striker.
no,
Yeah,
and it's I've said it for a long while on my own channel as well. There's just been an over reliance on Saka to be that guy, and I think by his mid to late 20s, I think he'll just be completely burnt out. And
yeah,
Saka is a very very good player. There's no questioning that whatsoever. Although at times I do feel like he gets more credit and is overrated than most of the Arsenal fan base rate him to be. He's a very very good player. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but the job that he has been doing is so highly admirable in the way that he's been getting the goals for this team when he can,
yeah,
and it's a testament to him the way he gets the way he has three defenders almost always on him at
yeah.
all times. So it's a testament to him to how good he's been, but he needs support. He's doing it.
Yeah, it's. I think it's really interesting because I think even though when we're on a good day, there's a lot of standout players, but I think when we're not having a great day, he'll probably stand out more because he's the one that is trying a lot more. Like he's obviously very talented, and I think that just shows. But I think, like you said, we're relying on him, and we have been for a while. And I think obviously Sterling coming, I was thinking, would that be a chance for Saka to maybe not play a full 90 minutes, when he doesn't need to? Because if we're winning comfortably, you can rotate that. And obviously, Reece Nelson's obviously gone on loan, so we needed like a backup. But I think as well, it's an interesting thing because I think it with Arsenal fans, it's a very interesting one because Odegaard, for me, as an example, I thought he did good in our game against Chelsea. I thought, you could really see the difference, but I think it's not great for fans to, like you said, overhype the situation or to overhype their performance because I just think he's came back from an injury as well. And I think, I've seen what I've seen. I thought he did good. I mean, I know he's injured and we'll probably see better of him. And it's not the best we've seen of Odegaard, but I think as fans, people do, when he does a good pass, people get excited, just like Saka if he scores. Because it's an interesting one about Saka because I know it's having these arguments if he's world class because people can happily say Foden's world class. And I think Foden's a very good player, but I also think Foden hasn't been in like a team the way Saka's been, where he's really struggled and had to. But I think Foden would still do good in a team like that. But I think as well for Saka, he's had to be in a team that's been eighth, fifth, and has really struggled, and he's not really won an awful lot of trophies. So I think Saka's obviously. I think he deserves to win a trophy, now, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if players do decide to move on. I know Saliba's been linked to Madrid, and I do get that because we're not really with the league this season. Like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but if you're being realistic, I think Liverpool are in a great position right now. Man City, it's a weird one with them because they're going through a bit of a rough patch, so I honestly don't know about the league.
It's definitely it's very untypical of a Man City lose from a row. But if there's one thing that we know what can and probably what will happen, people can clip this or whatnot if I get this wrong, but we know how Man City can flip a switch
Yeah.
right before the end of the season. We've all seen it. I know you've been on the receiving end of that twice, which I mean, it's definitely a bit mad to see that how they're able to just switch in an instant. And if there's any team that's capable of finding their feet again, it's Man City. And
Yeah.
we know what they're capable of. Liverpool as well are in a very good position. But another question: if Arteta ends up winning nothing, no major honors, do you think uncomfortable conversations should take place or be thought of? Because I'll be 5 seasons without winning anything. Do you think uncomfortable conversations should be had?
I think, yeah, I would say yeah, because like I do like Arteta, and I think he's got all the right qualities to be a successful manager, but it's just like we're not getting over that line with the league, and I think it's just I just think maybe some of his mistakes. You look at last season. I know for a while, I'm not saying we would have won the league if he had done this, but you just don't know. I mean, with Havertz, him playing the right position makes a difference. I know last season when Arteta makes some mistakes, that does, make a difference. And I think if we're not going to bring the right players in, like I said, for the summer, that's obviously going to make a difference as well. And I think it's an interesting one because I really want to work for Arteta because he's so close to doing it, but this season as well, where it feels quite far away from winning the league. And I think with me, like, I'd be happy for him to stay, another season or to see his future if he would win silverware. Like an FA Cup or like, do you know what's weird? Like with the League Cup, if we won that and we came third, I wouldn't be happy with that because it's almost like Liverpool have overtaken us and we've gone back again. I know it's silverware, but it just feels like we're falling. If we were like on level points, then it's a little bit different. But it's a tough one really because I want him to do well, but I just don't know honestly. What about you? Like, what do you think of Arteta as like an outsider?
No, I think what you say is actually exactly what I would say
Mhm.
if I were in your position as well.
Yeah,
If we just won a Carabao Cup and finished third, then it's like, what's the point? You've been given how
yeah,
much money? You've been given over 800 million pounds to spend, or over what, around 800 million to spend since he was.
yeah. He's had a lot of money.
Yeah, so yeah, he's been handed the keys to the Ferrari to drive, and he should have been, in my opinion. I think Arsenal for the money spent, I think should have brought in far better footballers, for the money spent. Kai Havertz,
Yeah,
remember he was brought in to be the Xhaka replacement in midfield. Saw very, very early that he's not a central midfielder, which I think most of us did see them try to play him up front. If he had played him up front for the entirety of the league season, who knows? Also could have very well won the league,
yeah,
if he had done so. So, and even then, he's not consistent enough. Martinelli as well. If Arsenal
yeah,
wants to win a title, for me, he's not good enough either. I rate Trossard, but he's been poor and as of late. So I think when you look at Arsenal as a whole, apart from Bukayo Saka, there's no sort of, I guess you could say, killer instinct in the
yeah.
attack. Jesus is the same thing as well. Decent, okay footballer, but really,
Not enough really to.
he's not enough. You
Yeah.
need goal scoring prowess. They need
Do you know
more
what?
goal scoring prowess in the attack.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what I'd really kill for? Like, I'd really love to have Sanchez in his prime in this Arsenal team because
Alexis Sanchez in his prime. I mean, some of the Gen Z people may have just been hearing about. As a Man United fan, that guy absolutely terrorized me. When he went to Man United, to be honest, I never wanted him. I always wanted him to stay at Arsenal. And
mm,
and you got ruined by Jose, and it was sad to see. But never forget
yeah,
Alexis in his prime. That footballer was an absolute joke. And I think when it comes to the whole world class thing, as you were saying, because world class is a term that gets thrown out just to
yeah,
any old player, like, oh, this player is world class. That player.
yeah,
Phil Foden for me has world class footballing ability, but he's not a world class footballer as a whole.
yeah,
When you look at Alexis, that guy is everything Phil Foden. I guess you could say maybe he's not as technically good as Foden was at the time, but as a sheer winner, that guy is just something else. Alexis in his Arsenal days was an absolutely brilliant footballer.
Do you know
Brilliant.
what? It's really weird, like when you went to United, because I think at the time, like it was a while ago, I was like preparing him to go to Liverpool and Man City, and
Yeah,
then when United happened, I thought, oh
it
god,
was the
like
strangest thing.
it was
Martial
just
and
a
Rashford
shock.
were cooking, but because
Yeah,
in typical Jose fashion, because he just didn't like Martial, and had the
mm,
whole myth that him and Rashford couldn't play together. He just decided, oh, I'm just going to bring in Alexis and bring him in on like 500 grand a week. That's not going to do anything detrimental to our win.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I think sometimes, you know, if you're getting paid too much, like the motivation's not really there because you know you're getting paid. I think for Sanchez, like I don't really remember how much he was getting paid at Arsenal. I think he got paid a fair bit, but I think you could, like you said, you could see he was enjoying the football there and he was happy. And it is a shame really because I think right now Arsenal, like if he was here, we would be like I think we'd be winning an awful lot with him there. But I think you make it, yeah.
Arsenal fine.
I do miss him. Do you
That's
know,
terrifying.
it's really weird because I was looking today a bit about obviously Van Persie has said what you know a few things, and I think maybe as Arsenal fans, like I think a lot of Arsenal fans still have love for Sanchez, and I think maybe it's because he didn't win things. Like I think if Sanchez had won like a league title or an FA Cup and all of these things with you guys,
100%.
I would probably have a bit of hurt towards him. Like, it doesn't bother me now looking back because he didn't really have a successful time. But I think that's the difference with Van Persie. You know, he left us and did well, and I think that's the difference, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he literally won us the league. So no,
Yeah,
no, I completely understand the bitterment towards RVP at the time. I get it, but what he said at the time, you know, he's willing to sign that new deal, but he said he wanted to see something on the club side of things to match his ambitions. And I mean, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't
yeah,
wrong when you look at it from a neutral point of view. He wasn't
yeah.
wrong at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was like alive when it happened. I was probably like little, but, I think to be honest with you, like, I, I think we were at that point where we were just wanting to give players money, and we weren't really about winning. I think we got to a point where it was about getting top four, and like, I know for me, I think as an Arsenal fan, like the bare minimum, if you're having a terrible season, is to at least get top four. And I think that was just sort of our goal every season. You could see he wanted to win, but I think it's really weird, isn't it? Because a lot of fans do hold a grudge against him, Arsenal fans. I mean, it's a weird, you know, it's an interesting point because Fabregas is another one that Arsenal fans, some Arsenal fans really love him, and some us like for me, I don't. I hated him at Chelsea. I hate watching him at Chelsea, but I don't hold that against him because I know we still had that love for Arsenal. But with Van Persie, it's just a different one, really. But it's really interesting how fans can hold on to things. I mean, I think you know there'll be certain players you love more, like Sanchez. It's really weird. I loved Giroud growing up. I think he's amazing, but Sanchez just will always be my favourite player I watched growing up for me.
No, I no, I completely understand that. And Giroud, I think after Arsenal, I think he was, you know, a lot more appreciated
Yes,
for
definitely.
what he was, just as a target. You know, wasn't the best of goal scorers, but Eden Hazard said he was his favorite striker to play with. Holds up the
Yeah.
ball and releases it to the wingers around him. And, you know, not only was Alexis a brilliant footballer, don't get me wrong, but
Mm.
a lot of the goals that he did score playing alongside Giroud definitely helped
Yeah.
with that.
I think it's always about, like you said, you know, the players that you have with you, like along the way, because I think, like, you know, I was quite lucky growing up watching like Ozil, Sanchez. I mean, there's so many amazing players, but I do think it's all about who's there with you. And like, I wanted to read this because that would be Sanchez, Aubameyang, and Saka. It's really weird with Aubameyang because I just don't really feel like he's as welcome back at the club as Sanchez would be now. Like I think if Sanchez was in the crowd, I think people would be loving him. But I think when it ends badly, I think it's not too great really with Aubameyang. But yeah, Aubameyang, it's a shame because unlike the striker situation, we never really kind of replaced him, and I think it's a bit annoying because like Nketiah's gone as well. We've not really brought anyone in to sort of bring him in. Like we're getting rid of players, but we're not replacing them. Like it doesn't make sense. And I think that's another thing. Like with Edu leaving as well, that was a surprise to me. But I don't really feel sad that he left because I think we needed a change, as a club. But I think overall, I think Edu's done a pretty good job with signings. I know there's been a few ones that haven't done good at all, but I think as a majority, it's been good. But you make a good point before. Arteta spent a lot of money, and I think if you look at his signings, you could think, well, he could have done things differently. And I think that's something you might look at him. And I also think of Arteta, like, if you look back at Ferguson's career, you look at what he's won. And with Arteta, if you look back at what he's won in 5 years, it's not an awful lot, really, is it?
One FA Cup with a squad that wasn't his. And about Aubameyang, I think Aubameyang, with the fan base, nothing ever was wrong with the fan base watching the All or Nothing. The fans and Aubameyang always had a good relationship from what I mean. Again, I don't watch I watch Premier League every single weekend, but obviously my focus is going to be at Man United more than any football club. But from what I could see, Aubameyang and Arsenal and the supporters always had a good relationship. Was always very the players loved his energy in the dressing room and all that. The issue was with Arteta. Yes, he had disciplinary issues, but I think at the end of the day, you're missing someone like Aubameyang up front. And let's not forget that's the player that won them. That won you lot your FA Cup as well. He hasn't been replaced. And to kind of pull it back to Man United for a minute, the way that Giroud was definitely signed with a lot of Arsenal for lack of goals, but offered a lot of link up, but it wasn't really seen to be as anything really being worth noted for. This is why I'm a big defendant of Joshua Zirkzee. So I think as a footballer, he's a very, very good footballer technically, but it's as if the old manager thought that he was Fellaini, just hold the ball forward, that he can hold it up and a big physical presence up front. That's not Joshua Zirkzee's game, and Joshua Zirkzee is a very good footballer at the end of the day, but for all the good things that he does, he just doesn't have the end product right now. Something that almost always gets signed by the top reds of the fan base, who just again, another thing that really irritates me. So hopefully he'll start scoring the goals soon, and he can balance it out. And that's and in a similar way to Giroud, I see Zirkzee in a similar element to him.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard as well because I think Martinelli is in like a similar situation where his goals are kind of coming, at the moment. He obviously got a goal against Chelsea, but it's like with the end product, it's so disappointing because they can do really well at every other thing, but it's just those chances that you're struggling to take. And I think sometimes it can be like a confidence issue. Like sometimes in time it might help, but it's hard really when your club is sort of going through a bad time and you need players to really step up. But I think it's definitely about time sometimes. I mean, another one that I find fascinating, I mentioned before about Rashford, is that I like him a lot and I know he loves United, but is he able to... I mean, we saw Rashford a few years ago. He was amazing, and I know at the moment you can see some goals from him sometimes, but do you feel like he can go another level at United, or do you feel like it's just not going to work out? Because I always find it interesting about Rashford because I do really like him as a person, but I just don't know at United if it's really going to work for him.
As a person, when he is outside of football, I think it should only be positive when you look at everything he's done for our country and all that.
Yeah.
It can only be looked at in a positive light. However, on the football pitches where I look at, he's 27 now. He's not a kid anymore. 350 grand a week. The supposed talisman of the club. You're supposed to be one of the main leaders of this club. And he's not. It's too inconsistent. It's, we've seen the purple patch Rashford like we saw 2 years ago. And then he just goes missing for an entire year. And he's looked slightly better this season, but to be honest, any player that looks slightly improved from last season, honestly, unless if it's significant, to be honest, I have little to no care for it, because last season is just an anomaly. So it shouldn't be given that much praise for any sort of improvement off of last season. So, when I'm looking at that, he should be the one scoring the goals. When a player's on 350 grand a week, I'm thinking, you're either technically out of this world and you're embarrassing defenders on the pitch every week, or you're like Mo Salah and you're scoring goals for fun every single week and you're putting up a number set Mendes over the years. 350 grand a week. And you're not even remotely even close to either of those things. I don't think he'll go because he's on the 350 grand a week. I don't think any club is going to match his wages. Maybe Paris Saint-Germain, but that's very difficult to say. But right now, he's going to be for the remainder of the season at least. If he fits the system, if there's a way that you can get the best out of him, great. If not, let him sit on the bench. And I see with Martinelli, I see him in a very, very, very similar way to Garnacho. And for those who know me, I'm not the biggest Garnacho supporter. He's the kind of player that's going to just, he's going to give you his all. He's going to work hard for the bag. But for me, in my opinion, a player that, not even just a football player, anyone who has, I don't know, a 9-to-5 job, I expect you to work hard and to give 110%. Not that it's anything wrong to work hard for the badge. That's always great. But, I also, especially if you're going to be, the starting left winger for Arsenal Football Club, I want to see something different. And like we were talking about before, Alexis Sanchez, something special. Robert Pires, probably a bit before your time, something special.
Because I think with like you said, we were speaking a bit about before about Sanchez and all those players. Like, we were never predictable. It was just like growing up, it was the defense that was our problem, and now we're in like the opposite position now, where it's our defense is great. I know recently we have conceded a lot, but we've spent a lot of money on our defense. I think our defense is pretty good. It's just the attack that sometimes doesn't click as much. And like with Trossard as well, he's more of a bench player for me. I think when he comes on, he kind of reminds me about Giroud. Giroud would always score or do something special, and I think Trossard can do that. But I think with like the competition on the left, I don't think there's much competition, because Trossard, for me, if he starts a full game, I don't think it works out always. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I think because because Martinelli doesn't need to fight for his players, because he probably knows he's going to start on the left. So I think as fans, we know that he's probably the better option on the left. But I do think Martinelli has gone through like a confidence issue. I think at the moment he is getting better. He did miss a few chances against Chelsea. Like, I know he scored and I thought that would be the winner at the time, but I think for him, like you said before, it's not enough what we have to probably win a league potentially. But I think we have enough to win something this season. But I don't really know what that is. I mean, I know with the League Cup, we're in like the quarterfinals, I think, against Crystal Palace, but it's a tough one with the league. Like, how do you feel about Arsenal? Do you, like we said before as well, Man City go through a phase where they go slow and then he speeds up again, and they'll probably catch Liverpool possibly, or get quite close to them. But with Arsenal, I can't predict honestly what's going to happen with Arsenal because we can be quite inconsistent with things. I know last season we went through our phase. Went to Dubai, we picked up form, had a great season, and I think we're going through something quite similar now. Before like we went to Dubai last season, so I just don't know what's going to happen with Arsenal, honestly.
Honestly, knowing Arsenal, and the bottle job mentality that the club has, with all due respect, I mean, they're not. I mean, even in Man City having a poor time of right now, I'll find their feet again because I know they have that winning mentality. Pep Guardiola will not allow anything less than that. But again, I think it's just going to be, I've seen this story now for, I don't know, probably more than 12 years of my life.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to see the same story again. The Arsenal Express is never too late to disappoint. From a Man United perspective, it's never too late to disappoint. It never is. So, if I'm honest, I don't think Arsenal will do it. I don't think they're good enough. I don't think that they have the quality for it. And I think the summer window, when they had the chance to get in some, attacking quality. I mean, some very affordable business that they probably could have done if they had gone and gotten Palhinha, gotten Olise to compete with Saka. They had done.
Yeah, he would have been a good. Yeah.
They had gotten, and then their big money marquee signing was someone like I don't know, like a Rafa Leao. I would have looked also and been like, wow, okay, they mean business now. They seriously mean business because those are all relatively achievable deals to do.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich got both Palhinha and Olise from Fulham and Palace respectively. So if Arsenal had gone out and done those deals, gotten Tony, and they had splashed the cash for someone like a Leao or something, you look at how much better and how much more depth that attack is. I would have been like, okay, wow, all right. Arsenal seriously mean business now. They want this league title, and anything less, Arteta should be sacked. Because you look at the attacking quality that team has, okay, but unfortunately they hadn't done that. So
it's a tough one as well because I think I'd love to have a manager that would just be here for maybe not 10 years, but a long time. I think it'd be nice to just obviously I like Arteta, but I can't say right now if because like you said, you've got to see how it goes at the end of the season. I think at the moment, I think fans can be emotional and say things because anything can happen. I think we can go on a really good run and catch up with Man City. I don't think we can win a league personally. I think you should always believe, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think Liverpool about 9-10 points or something like that, and I think we have to go to Anfield. And if I'm being honest, we probably won't win Anfield because it's always been a place where you struggle. And if we did win, there's still going to be a lot of points above us. And we play Man City as well. So it's honestly a long season ahead. But I do agree. I think it's quite disappointing really because we've been doing this for 3 seasons now, going for the league, and we have gotten close in the season. We seem quite far away, but it's so frustrating as a fan because we're doing so well during times where Chelsea and all of these teams haven't done good, and we've not really been able to take advantage of that. Because I know the first season we challenged, I thought, Man United are going to get better. You look at Aston Villa; they're getting better, and other teams might overtake us. And I think you've seen that this season with Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool obviously overtaken us. I mean, it's a bit frustrating if Liverpool win the league. It will feel quite deflated. I feel quite deflated because it's almost like they've overtaken us, and it's only Slot's first season. Arteta's been here for 5 years, and it'll be quite frustrating. With Arteta, do you think he lacks the experience? Because I know when he first came, people were saying he doesn't have the experience of Klopp, he doesn't have this and that. But I think for someone who doesn't have the experience of those managers, he's done a pretty good job. But it's just about if he can and if he's able to get us over that line.
For me, Arteta, it's you're seeing some of the signings and some of the decisions that he makes is definitely a lack of experience. I don't know how Arsenal fans will take this, but for me, Arteta's come in and he steadied the ship very well, but Arteta's your version of Brendan Rodgers. Liverpool needed to get over the line. Brendan Rodgers wasn't good enough. Guess what? They got rid. Jurgen Klopp came in. Yes, it took a very long while, but you look at the CV what Klopp has done, what he did at Dortmund and all of that, and sure enough, he won them a Champions League. He won them a league after, yes, it was COVID season, but he still won them a Premier League title at the end of the day, and he won Liverpool. Yeah. So, do I think Arteta's going to do that? No, I don't think he's the guy for that. But I mean, at this point, right now, it's not just Arteta. I think that the squad that he's built you, because from the squad that he first inherited, I think the only player that's there right now is Saka, the only one. Tierney maybe. I don't know where he's been. I think he's on loan or something. But apart from those two players, that squad's been completely ripped and dismantled, and it's been built in Arteta's image, in how Arteta wants to play. These are his players, every single one. So to a certain extent, he has little to no excuses.
Because when we won the FA Cup, I think there are a few players still here that played in that, but it's like a completely different squad now to what it was in the cup final. I know Tierney was here. I don't think Saka played as much as he does now, but I think, like you said, there doesn't make any excuses. It's a new team. He's got all of his players he wants, really. I mean, he has spent a lot of money, but I think it's about time now that he does really win something. Like we said, I think, silverware. I think silverware last season was a must, but I think silverware this season really is a must because, like we said before, when you look at a manager's like legacy, whether that's Wenger, Mourinho, whoever, you'll look at other things they've done, obviously, like the improvement of players and other things, but the success is obviously what makes a manager so good. And I think if Arteta left now, he wouldn't get the credit sometimes he deserves, but he also maybe wasn't able to achieve as much as he wanted to. So I do hope Arteta can do it. I just wanted to say big up to a few people who are in here. Niall, who says like and subscribe. Thank you so much, Niall. Big up Luca. Hope you're good. Good to see you in here as well. Big up to everyone that is watching this. I thought we could chat a bit about both our teams and sort of do a kind of combined 11. For you, do you think any of your players could get into this Arsenal team? Because right now we're not doing great. I mean, I think with the goalkeeper, I think Raya's in great form. But do you think how many players do you think could get into Arsenal's team? And I'll answer for me if I can think if any Arsenal players would come into.
Am I taking into account just the players' overall abilities of right now, or are we taking into account of form or
just maybe in general? I mean, I think Arsenal at the moment in form aren't good, but I think just how they're doing this season in general, because I think that would be fair. So what do you think then? Because
it's definitely difficult because if we're just saying base it off the season, I'd say maybe little to none because we've been absolutely dreadful so far, apart from this brief interim period under Ruud. But if we're taking account into the general ability of some of these footballers, I could definitely name a good couple. I know maybe some of the top gooners won't be too happy with who I'd personally pick and choose, but no, I think because it's difficult because we're in now we're now in a new era. Ineos have picked their guy. The Ineos revolution is complete. So we haven't seen one single game under that now. But in regards to what I know what some of these players are, you could definitely make a case for some of them getting into this Arsenal team.
Do you know, you felt the goalkeeper situation, what have you made with Onana, because For me, I think Raya's had an amazing start to the season. Like, I don't think he's done much wrong, but I think with your goalkeeper, I think he's actually grown a bit more in confidence because when he
Mhm.
first came, I was thinking, you know what, like I was surprised because I've watched him before at other teams he's played at, and I think maybe it just took him a bit of time to adapt, really.
No, yeah, if I'm not, it's definitely a strange one because last season, in the Champions League, I'm thinking, what on earth am I seeing? I mean, the mistakes he's making. I mean, David De Gea, these are the kind of mistakes I'd be, absolutely losing at David De Gea for, and Onana's doing the same sort of thing, if not worse.
Yeah.
So, but then again, even in stretches where Onana's been or was looking reliable, the FA Cup final, that goal that Doku scored, it
Yeah.
beat Onana at his near post, and knowing how the way Man United fall apart, I'm thinking, don't do this to me now. Please, don't do this now. But this season, testament to Onana really, because out of that defense, really, he's the only one where in the middle, maybe Mazraoui. I'd probably say, I mean, largely the defense hasn't been too much of an issue, as oddly as that sounds. It hasn't been too much of an issue. And Onana's been one of our better players this season. If not for Onana, we probably would concede maybe double or triple the amount of goals that we've conceded already. So shout out to Onana.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I think with him, I think he's definitely getting better. And I always think when you come from a different league to like the Premier League, you need time sometimes with players. And I think he has made some questionable mistakes, but I do think he's getting better. And I think Raya for me has been like so good this season. Like I've been so impressed with him. I think like both his like our defense has been okay to be honest, but it's really weird with like our injuries at the moment. Like the right back one has been very inconsistent. Like we'll see Timber, sometimes Ben White, and it's like. But for me, Saliba and Gabriel, like I think they're the best in the league, probably.
That duo is very good. However, when the best center back or the best defense in your conversations, I'm sorry, I'm not having it. I'm not having it, especially when you probably weren't born yet, but the comparisons to that Chelsea 04-05 team with Carvalho and John Terry, that defense.
John Terry was unreal.
15 goals all season, maybe. I think it might have been 12. So it's nowhere near that. It's one of the best in the league, one of the best in the world, without a doubt. But the fact of reality is, I think Arsenal can see the same amount of goals as we have. So if you look at it from that perspective, you look at it a bit differently. But it's definitely an absolutely brilliant centre-back partnership. There's no question.
Yeah, I think the problem with us, like I don't know how many we've conceded, but we have conceded like an awful lot this season. I mean, I don't think it's always on them. I think sometimes if you give the ball away, there's not much they can do in their position really. But I think they need to win leagues because there's so many amazing partnerships in history. Like you said, John Terry was amazing, but I think a big part of their credit was the success as well. I think they've got to be able to win something to get that credit themselves. And I think they'll know they want to win things as well because they won't want to be here just to come second all the time. And big up. Hope good to see you in here as well. Big up to all of you in here. With like. With Arsenal's like Arsenal left back and right back, it's really weird because I think, like I said, right back sometimes I like Timber this season. I think he's been great. Ben White is not really being a starter always. I think he's obviously got an injury though, and the left back obviously Calafiori's sort of done that role. But for United, do you feel like you're more stronger in that position this season? Like, what are your thoughts?
I rate Jurrien Timber. I think technically he's very sound on the ball. Injuries is his biggest problem. Ben White, well, I'm seeing in this Ben White pattern, he's being more and more phased out of the squad. And I think, it's very similar to the Ramsdale situation. And when I look at that, it's kind of going down the similar to same route. No, I don't think he'll be sold, but
Yeah.
if he doesn't play, if he plays very little minutes, then I won't be surprised really. Mazraoui for 12 million for me has been one of the signings of the summer. He's been an absolute bargain. Technically, he is so good. Honestly, I am Diogo Dalot. I rate him as well, although he hasn't been great this season. But still fundamentally very good as well. I mean, really, with Arsenal's fullbacks, he's doing the Pep Guardiola surprise when they're playing centre backs out wide. You have your Calafiores or Kivi or Zinchenko, or you have Ben White on the other side, or Timber. You could play Timber on either side. So, whereas with us, for us, it's literally we're just playing natural fullbacks. I mean, we only have two because Luke Shaw just can't ever stay fit. Hasn't really been.
Yeah, it's a shame for him. I do like him.
Yeah, so it's a bit different. When I'm looking at just attacking output, Mazraoui and Dalot for me, I prefer them two. Although being defensively sound, going the other way, Ben White's probably and Timber would probably be the two starting right backs, or the two starting fullbacks, I should say. So it really depends what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one with the right back one, because I love Ben White and I think he's done a lot better than a lot of people thought. And I know at the moment he's got an injury, but like this season, I much prefer Timber. Like, I just love watching him. Like you said, he's very good, and I think it's good to give him the benefit of the doubt as well, because he's had such a big injury. And I think with that, you can't expect him to be playing all the time. He's not going to be playing the full 90 minutes, I think Arsenal, it's a shame as well for Tomiyasu, because I really like him. But
I forgot about him as well.
do you know what? Apparently he's going to be back after this break, and I just think he'll be injured in like a week or something. It's so annoying because I like him so much.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's like, I do feel bad with Luke Shaw, because I remember a few years back he had a great Euros, and I thought, I hope he would kick on at United, but it's just some players just can't, just have these injuries all the time, and they can't obviously help it, but it's a pity because I do really like him. But yeah, injuries are so tough to face with. I know in the midfield, it's really weird. Arsenal, I think Partey's been amazing this season for Arsenal. I'll be honest, I think he's done better than Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice this season is just been a little bit more off the pace. He's been good, but not at the level we've seen him. But I think obviously Odegaard, you can't really add him in the team right now, because he's not really. I think he gets into sort of most teams, but I think because of this season, I don't think he's done too good. But I definitely think Partey's been outstanding so far. But I also feel like with Partey, I feel like any minute he's going to have an injury, because he'll do well and then he'll have an injury, and then our season's pretty much done. But what are your thoughts? Like, about your midfield? Like, do you think you've got a really good midfield? Because I think for Arsenal, on our day when everyone's fit, I'm quite confident. But obviously, right now we're not doing too good.
On Odegaard, I rate him very highly as a footballer. For me, I think he's far better than Bruno is. For those who know me, Bruno is a player that just annoys me so much, because he is a player that frustrates me beyond belief, because everyone will say, oh, he scored us all these goals in 2021.
Yeah.
That's how many years ago? Mount and Havertz and Werner won a Champions League at Chelsea how many years ago? Look at them now. Like, last season, you weren't even getting G&A, really. And fundamentally, as a footballer, I mean, this guy can't keep hold of the ball. He always feels the need to just send it long for Rashford to run onto. And as your number 10, you need to also control and dictate the game. And Odegaard is a player that does that largely very well. Bruno can't do that. I saw little bits of it against Leicester, really, where he's giving these give and goes and intricate passing and all that. And I'm like, okay, if this is the Bruno that I could see, all right, then you know what? I'm then you know what, Bruno can stay for now. But Bruno is a player that I think we need to eventually phase out of the team. And I think Rashford as well, because I think whatever system that we play, these two always have a major role in regards to, you know, what managers are here and what managers get sacked. I think in the long run, you know, both of them are going to be phased out at some point. So I rate Odegaard very highly. In regards to Declan Rice, good player. However, I think his role's overcomplicated a bit.
Yeah.
Like some Arsenal fans say he's a 6. Some Arsenal fans said he's an 8. In the Euros, he was one of our worst players in the Euros.
He was quite quiet, I thought, yeah.
If we're being totally honest, he was poor. 19-year-old Kobbie Mainoo carrying that England midfield on his back. I don't care what people say. Arsenal fans have the whole Starboy thing with Saka. Kobbie Mainoo is the epitome of a Starboy. 19 years old, man of the match in the FA Cup final, bossed Rodri in that game. And yes, Rodri got the better of him in the Euros, but the player is special. And I think, you know, any manager in the world would want a Kobbie Mainoo, you know, in and around their squad, whether he starts or not. You know, technically there's still elements of his game that he needs to improve. And he hasn't looked the player that he has this season. He hasn't looked happy. And he's another one that I'm excited to see what Amorim does with him. And hopefully he gets played higher up the pitch as well in a more attacking area. But no, Kobbie Mainoo's a player I rate so
I
high.
really like him a lot. He reminds me in a different way, like of Saka. Just the fact that whenever you've watched him for England or United, he'll always come on the pitch and make things happen. And I think, you know, he's just I just love seeing young players come on the scene and really give it a go, because sometimes the experienced players, some of them just won't give you the energy, the excitement that these young players will give you, because obviously I mean, I think for England we have a lot of experienced players, but sometimes that won't win you games. You need to, you know, have things, you know, few things differently. I mean, it's like Arsenal, like with Ranieri, you know, he reminds me a bit when Smith Rowe came on the scene at Arsenal, and he really brought that enthusiasm, the energy, and I think sometimes you need that. But it's an interesting one with Rice. Like, I mean, I think for the Euros, like I thought he was okay. Like I wouldn't say he stood out to me, but I think going into the season for us, I think that's affected his fitness a bit. I'm pretty sure Rice played most of the games for England, but he obviously had a busy schedule. But yeah, I don't, like you said, his role was an interesting one, really, because at the moment, like I would like to see him go forward a bit more, really, and make a bit more of a difference. But I think a goal for him will definitely come soon. But it's a difficult one, because I think we've also got Jorginho doesn't really play much, and I think sometimes, I know Rice has had an injury at the moment. I think if Rice isn't able to play, you know, maybe sometimes bring Jorginho on, because I know Jorginho is, you know, getting on a bit, but he's still. He can still offer you things, but I just hope
he can dictate the game, and that's what I rate about Kobbie Mainoo so highly. At his age, he, you know, so calm on the ball. You know, he's not fazed by too much. Just the control, the calm on the ball. Technically secure as well. Being comfortable on the ball, in possession, press resistant. Just and when I see young players, you know, come on the pitch and in big games like the Euros and the FA Cup final, and you're able to just show it effortlessly. For me, that you're a very special player. When you also show it in a dismal Man United side last season, when the experienced players that are supposed to be guiding you, which is what I praised Saka for back in COVID season. But I rated Saka so highly, the experienced players weren't giving any sort of guidance at all. And at 19 years old, he had to carry the Arsenal side. Yes, they finished 8th, but that wasn't really on him. He'd done his job. And for a large part of that, for the season, and Kobbie only played around 6 months, starting in end of November. So just players like that are very special. And him and Rice, they're definitely different players. But I think technically as a footballer, I think Kobe Mino gets into that.
I do like him a lot. I think you know, I think if he was in this Arsenal team, I think he'd be flying right now. I think he's amazing. I think he brings a lot of, like I said, energy, enthusiasm to the team when you need someone to give you that energy. And yeah, I do think he's got a bright future ahead of him, to be honest with you. And I think as well, yeah, Arsenal's midfield. I mean, do you know what? After the international breaks finish, I think obviously at the weekend we play, and I think going to be interesting to sort of see how both Arsenal and United do. Sometimes after a break, it takes players some time to adjust. But yeah, it'd be good to see the team play. Just wanted to say big up Salmon, lovely show. Glad you're all enjoying it. Before we go, I thought we could chat about end this on sort of our attack. I mean, Arsenal's isn't really it's very hit or miss sometimes of Arsenal's attack, really. I mean, I think Saka will always get into a team for me.
Mhm.
With Saka against Chelsea, I'll be honest, I did think he was very quiet, but I also know he has been, like we said, he doesn't really get a break. He's been playing non-stop because we rely on him again. I think with Havertz, he's very good, but I also think he won't win us the league on his own, and I think that's why we need to bring someone else in. But I also think Havertz, I think he's very, very good, but it's weird with Havertz because I love him. I think he's amazing, but he can go missing sometimes, like in the games, because after he scored that offside goal against Chelsea, like we never really saw anything else after that. So yeah, I mean, on the left, I'm sure you guys will take that. But yeah, how do you feel about like your attack? I mean, because I think it's a bit similar in a way. I mean, Arsenal's not gelling so much. Our end product is a little bit poor.
With their attack, it's a bit of both things. Lacking the quality and a systemic issue. Um, for a large portion of last season, when I was in London, first time I'd gone to Old Trafford in 7 years to that Bayern Munich match, and I saw the front three of Højlund, Antony, and Garnacho, which, you know, I almost, pulled the follicles of my hair out of my head, because that front three is just unlike. Yeah, I think the less said the better about that.
Yeah.
Just the pace and power, merchants is something I just am not a fan of. Of course, you need some of that in your side. It's important to have some of that element, but it's not what I look for personally
Yeah.
in a footballer. For me, Ahmad, for me, it's criminal how the majority of last season he just spent on the bench.
Yeah.
People are seeing now how good he is, and if he wasn't competing against Saka on the right hand side, he'd be going into this team without a doubt. But Bukayo Saka, of course, gets in ahead of Ahmad. As much as I love, I'm a huge fan of Ahmad. Kai Havertz, Chelsea got rid of him for a reason, because he wasn't good enough, and I think also are seeing the same sort of issue now that they need an upgrade in that position. In regards to our strikers, I mean, our strikers can't score either. Højlund is just 72 million on Rasmus Højlund, a player who's a rotation striker. Atalanta, who scored 9 goals in all competitions the season before we bought him. Again, the less said the better, which I think it's amazing how all the patience I was given to Højlund last season when it took him 15 games to score a Premier League goal.
Yeah.
And how Zirkzee, a player who we're paying £36 million for, but we're paying it over 3 seasons, so 12 million essentially, is not given any sort of patience and is getting absolutely cooked by this fan base. So it's something I get, especially when he's a better footballer than him. Not something that I get, but in regards to the striker position, it's difficult, really. I don't know. I maybe throw in Gabriel Jesus.
Do you know what? He's not any much better. Do you know what? It's really. I don't honestly know why it's gone so wrong at the moment with him, because I do think injury is like maybe 60-70% of it, a big chunk of his performances. But I also think like the player we got a few seasons back, he's not the same player anymore. And
No.
I think he's better. I think we need to move him on. But I also want, as a part of it, really wants him to, it'd be nice to see a bit of competition with him and Havertz. I mean, Havertz is great. I did a video with a Chelsea fan a few weeks ago, and I really made a good point. And there's a difference between a good player and a great player. A great player like Henry or legends of the game. And I think maybe Havertz is just a good player, but he just won't be at that level. And I think as Arsenal fans, we all know that he's not all to blame with why we're not scoring. I think players have had chances around the team to score. But everyone knows that isn't enough for us to win things. And I think if Arteta was bringing Havertz in, then that's fine, because I'm happy with the job he's doing. But we also need to understand that is not enough for us to, chase Man City all the way and win things. Like, I think we can win things, like I said before. We can win, FA Cups, League Cups. I mean, with the league, obviously, it's hard, but the Champions League, it's a different level of hard with Madrid, Man City in there. But I think if Arsenal can get a good run, then I think that'll be good. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how both teams sort of do under your new manager. Arsenal, very two sort of different seasons, really, because I think for Arsenal, it might feel like a make or break season for Arteta, possibly. I think,
100%.
I think it kind of should be, maybe. I mean, I love everything he's done there, but we both know silverware is like a massive thing for the club. But
Ten
for
Hag's won
United,
2
yeah,
trophies. Ten
and
Hag's won
he's been more
Two
successful.
trophies, as he always reminds us, 2 trophies, and Arteta's won none. So, yeah, it's definitely a make or break season. And for the left-hand side, for me, Martinelli, Garnacho are just they're the same. They're the same. I don't see any sort of. They're the same player. I mean, maybe Garnacho's a bit better with G&A, but I'm not a fan of either of them.
Do you know what?
I think Rashford's a better footballer than both of them. And
It's a shame with Martinelli, because I know he's had a few injuries and setbacks, but like maybe 2 seasons back, he was a different player to what he is now, and it's a real shame, really, because I really like him. And I think if he's able to get us the goals, if his confidence is back, then I think that's really going to make a difference for Arsenal this season. But I'm not sure. I think he can get us an awful lot of goals, like 15 in the league. Like, I think, well, in other competitions as well. But it's a shame, really. Sometimes players were important for you then, and sometimes a bit like Zinchenko or players like that. They won't start all the time, because things do change in football. But I just hope with Martinelli, he can really fight for this team, and he's showing that right now. His end product is, something that he needs to improve on. Like, I think if he would have taken a few of his chances against Chelsea, then, or Trossard, or if he, these things you do look at with the season. But it's going to be, I think we have to remember the season hasn't been on for too long, and it's when you're near Christmas, you can really properly judge things. And I think by then, I'll probably know how Arsenal are going to do. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed doing this. It's been so much fun to chat about both clubs, and I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on today.
No, cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And I just want to say big up to everyone as well who has sent some questions in or commented. It's been really, really good. And you have your YouTube channel as well. So do you want to just tell people a bit about that and where they can find you?
Yes. So my channel's called Premier League Primetime. We just released a new podcast episode yesterday. So go check that out. We're also on Instagram at PO Primetime. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So yeah, you can find us there.
Yeah, big up. Please do check him out. I have linked it in the bio in my title here. But yeah, fingers crossed we'll both have an interesting season. I know we play each other soon, so we'll probably do something then, like a preview or something if you're up for that. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. To those that are watching this, please do go over to subscribe to his channel. And yeah, do like this video, guys. Do subscribe, and hope you'll have a wonderful evening. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye, guys.